Hi, hey, hello, welcome. I need a desktop background, and I want to draw one. And in order to do that, I need a reference. And so I have once again come to Google Earth, to the streets of Japan, in search of a reference. See, I have a little hobby where I find aesthetic looking places and draw them with Pokémon. And I've been using Google Earth to do this, to find these places. This time around, I found some pretty cool places and some strange ones as well, such as this guy's car. As cool as it is, I'm not sure about this being a reference. I continued looking for a while and eventually I came across something quite scenic. Not this. But anyway, I continued to look around the coastal areas to see what I could find, and nothing really stood out. I did find a guy on a kayak, which I thought was pretty cool, as well as a guy on a paddleboard. But other than that, nothing particularly stood out to me. I decided to return to the streets and look around, and lots of staircases and just the usual, but again, nothing particularly stood out until this. Why there's a urinal in here? Don't particularly know. And believe it or not, this is not the only toilets I would find. I can't even tell what this place is actually meant to be. But moving on, we continue to look around the streets of the surrounding areas. Nothing happens for a while, so we're gonna skip forward a bit. Compliments of the sun, here I came across an incredibly beautiful and scenic road. Seems like the perfect road to have a nice, peaceful stroll along. And this was a curious find. I don't quite know what this was. I thought maybe I don't know, a car dealership, and the car's outside. And then I went inside and I became even more confused. Because this doesn't look like a house. So I don't know. And then I found this. I found it quite funny because this has to be deliberate. Anyway, on to the next. I came across this shrine and I thought, I can do something with this. The colors are incredibly dull, but maybe with a bit of editing I can spice that up and see what I can make of it. So I took a few pictures of this and we'll see. I wanted to do a landscape, but for whatever reason my go-to default is always portraits. Try to get a few different angles, but using Google Earth certainly makes that challenging. This was me racking my brain whether or not I wanted this piece or not. And once again, onwards. Here I came across a very beautiful little bridge over this river and I thought, wow, what I wouldn't give to stroll along this at sunset. And then I came across this park and there's nothing to it, it's pretty boring. Whatever this is, I try to find out, but I have no idea. Now, is it just me or is this in a very aesthetic looking utility pole? And a bird? And this little guy was staring at the Google Earth dude. I don't know what he did, but he did something to cause beef. another very pretty, quaint looking river. This whole neighborhood was just incredibly beautiful. It looked like it had almost been edited, color-wise. I mean, just look at these rice fields. They are vibrant and beautifully green. I found another very pretty looking shrine, and I was considering using this one, but with the angle it was at, I just didn't know how to get it as a landscape. And dude, once again, what is this neighborhood? It is so pretty looking. The greens here just get my artist brain tingling. I mean, just look at how beautiful this place is. It is so scenic. And check this house. Then I ran into this dude, and you'll never guess where he is. That's right, we're back. Genuinely, unironically, I found this place twice. And here we have the reference, landscape. I did a little bit of color editing to make it a bit more appealing, and yeah, this is what I was working with. So without further ado, starting off as usual, I do a quick pencil sketch, kinda imagine what it may look like, but as I said in my last video, I don't really like to plan out the entire thing. I like to give myself as much creative freedom as possible while I am doing the drawing. This time I had a really solid idea of what I wanted, so the sketch you see now is pretty much what it turns out looking like. The moment I saw this, I knew that the perfect Pokemon to put in here would be a Ninetales. There's something very divine and majestic about a Ninetales, and I figured putting it under the Torii Gate would just fit perfectly. The most vital aspect of this illustration was the foliage, and in the end I am very happy with how it turned out, as you'll see, but my word did it take a long time. This whole video was between about 6 different recordings, and the Pokemon themselves was literally only one, and the rest was just the foliage. If you watched my last video, you know that I am trying to not spend so much time on detail. I'm trying to give the illusion of detail, which is what I tried to do in this piece as much as possible, but I still spent hours in doing it. Yeah, I'm trying and battling to find that balance between detail and perceived detail, which I do actually think I did to some extent, but it still just took so long. And I think that this video, this illustration, is a good step towards finding that balance, but again, I just can't spend so long doing the foliage as I did in this piece. Which brings me to something else I'm trying to find a balance between, which is hyperrealism and stylization in my art. I tend to overly rely on the references, I think, and I battle to implement a personal stylized approach. They all kind of just feel like copy and pastes, which is not what I want them to feel like. Which of course is not necessarily a bad thing. Hyperrealism in art is very much so still art. It's just not really the type of style I want to be going for with these pieces. I actually really like my stylized approach to the Pokémon. I think it looks rather unique. I'm not trying to imitate the actual Pokémon art style, but specifically I'm talking about my backgrounds, the landscapes, which, to be honest, I think is more of the center point of a lot of my pieces. Or at least the immediate lure, because they are what I enjoy doing the most. But I do think it needs a bit of more of a, not cartoonish style or animated style, but just more stylized. A recent artist I came across, I'll put them up here, the way they do their backgrounds is just so incredibly appealing, and I don't quite know what it is about them. I actually contacted them to ask them for advice on it, and they were kind enough to get back to me. And I think that my art could really benefit from this sort of stylization, with my own personal touch, of course. For the longest time, I thought the best art was the art that looked the most realistic. But recently, I've started to come to the realization that the best art is the art you enjoy doing. And as much as I do enjoy these pieces, I don't enjoy putting so much effort into hyperrealism to the point where it takes hours upon hours. There are certain projects where it may be appropriate, but not for everyone, especially when I'm doing this just for myself. I've found as I've improved with my art that I put higher and higher expectations on myself, which is not a bad thing. However, I've become very results driven to the point where I have lost a bit of appreciation for the process of creating art. Some of my most enjoyable work are a lot worse than what I do now, but I enjoyed them a lot more because I wasn't trying to live up to expectations. I was just enjoying the art. And these Pokemon illustrations are just something I started for fun, right? There is no deeper meaning to them other than I enjoy doing them. And so I need to actively try not be so result driven. I must just try enjoy it more. Now, with that all being said, how do I make my art more stylized when my art style is rather realistic? I think that answer lies in the references. Sure, I edited them a bit and got some better color grading, but I likely could have done quite a bit more. I want to start looking at my references more like brief guidelines that I can experiment with. For example, I could have likely made this piece a bit more dynamic with the lighting, perhaps added some particle effects or something along those lines. Just something that makes it not so stale looking. Now, this stale-like look could also just be because they're not the most tantalizing reference photos. They are just straight off Google Earth. But that's something I want to be able to do. I want to be able to take boring, stale photos and create art out of them. But now again, this isn't always the case. I often get my references off Instagram and whatnot, and those are very aesthetic pictures. And I love those pieces. I love doing those pieces. I'm not trying to make a challenge out of this where I have to only find lame pictures to create art out of. I'm just trying to enjoy creating art. And sometimes I see potential in a stale image and I enjoy creating something from it. But often those pieces are missing a bit of life to them, which is what I'm trying to figure out how I install into my pieces. know why I did that. It just seemed kind of fun. But back to the illustration. Here I am starting to texture the rocks. I'm using a free brush I got from Mark Burnett's free pack. If you're looking for brushes, I would highly recommend. They're actually very good. This particular brush gives a very realistic texture, which, considering everything I was just saying about not wanting to be as realistic and be more stylized, maybe working against me. But well, that's something I'll consider in the future. Here I'm doing more of the ground clutter, just some leaves and whatnot, which I use the lasso tool to do, similar to how I did the leaves on the trees. Something I've found with using references like this is that when using the color matchy pull thing, always make your colors a little bit darker, a little bit brighter. It's not always as accurate as it looks, and a little bit of vibrancy never hurt anyone. And finally, coming to the grass, which was the bit that I was dreading the most, and the bit that was probably the most challenging, and the bit that probably doesn't look the best. But what can you do? In hindsight, this is the bit that I would have liked to stylize the most, just because, I mean, it doesn't look very nice in the picture, so I don't really know why I made it look similar in the illustration. Here I could have really done some stylization and made it much more appealing. But hindsight 2020, you live and you learn. It doesn't look awful by any means, it's just, it looks like it does in the reference. Watching it back now, I feel like it could have looked a lot better if I actually just made it moss and didn't add those patches of dirt. I think that would have looked quite nice. And that's it for the shrubbery. We are finally onto the Pokemon. First, I started with the Ninetales. I changed up the positioning a little bit, and then I went straight to the rendering. Here, as I showcased in the last video, I used the pulley brush this thing, to give the fur a really nice texture. Because there's no world where Ninetales would not be furry. And onto the Growlithe, who gave me by far the greatest challenge in this piece, aside from, well, the trees and whatnot. The Growlithe this time around was quite difficult. The posing, the coloring, the texture, I just couldn't seem to get it. And eventually I was happy with what I had done, and then a few hours later I wasn't, and I went back and I did it again. And now it's like a week later while I'm editing this, and I hate it even more now, and I want to go back and change it. But I won't, because in my mind I'm already finished this illustration. And also, just look how big this dude's head is right now. See, here the fur texture just doesn't look right this time. It looks like he's just come out of a fight. Now then, always the easiest, the Pidgey. Although this time, I think I redrew the Pidgey like 3 times in different angles, only for each time it to come back to the original angle. So that wasn't fun. See, here, it's literally the exact same pose it started out as, but oh well, sometimes you gotta see the other grass to realize that yours is greener. Last little bit of editing, color grading, adding any effects, which I don't think was actually any, but yeah, maybe some noise. And then here we are.